you ready, John? Okay, here we go. Good morning. I'd like to call the December 7th, 2021 bid board meeting to order. We have acknowledgement of a quorum. Thank everybody for coming. And first item of business is the agenda, or the minutes from the last meeting, which we did not have. So we also need to do the October minutes as well.
Motion to approve the October minutes.
A
Second.
motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 1, financial report.
All right, good morning. Your financial report is included in the packet. We did have a number of items spent so far, and we added the holiday decoration installation cost for a little over $10,000 into the encumbrance for lights and decorations. We also paid our Centrum bill for our space where we rent each year. It's about $600 for the music that plays downtown, and thanks to Dan Martin for getting our music back up and running. He did that the other week. Other than that, we did the final transfer for the bridge surety, that $5,395 that was planned. That's the final payment, and so next year is not included in the operating budget. That's pretty much it. The final payment to Steiner Electric will take place after they are able to present their findings and their work in January. Unfortunately, Rob was unable to attend today's meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is holiday decorations.
Great. So I guess I just wanted to start. I thought we should have this on the agenda. A couple people had asked about it in October and in December. Just, sort of recap how it went and what we should do moving forward. Just want to first thank everybody who helped out in setting up, and city staff, volunteers, and so many people who helped with the installation and other coordination throughout the period of time. I think it looks really nice downtown, and I've heard a lot of positive feedback so far. So that's great. One comment I have moving forward would be to maybe explore an RFP. I know Ken had mentioned it in the October meeting, and looking at services for 2022, just to continue to make sure that we're, getting competitive costs and estimates. I did do a bit of research in advance of this meeting, and found a few great vendors in our area that would that do downtown and commercial spaces. So yeah, the holiday decorations, right now we contract with David J. Frank Landscaping. They've done a great job for us. This year did have some bumps, a little bit of challenges in terms of communications and other items. So I just think it would be healthy for us to make sure that we go to bid next year for all the things that are needed, including new items and, existing installation and takedown.
I would totally be for that, and not to spread rumors or anything, but I did hear from a couple of the other business owners that were outside that day that just said that the employees of David J. Frank were extremely rude and difficult to work with, that they had witnessed that, and that we just don't want to see either, when there are other people that can be doing this as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it does look beautiful downtown.
Yeah, so it's great. And I agree. I think we should at least seek competitive bids and services that will serve our bid.
In terms of going out for bid next year, would we look at a multi-year or an annual with a renewable clause, so we wouldn't have to necessarily bid every year? Any thoughts?
How long did we have David J. Frank do it? What is it, 3-4 years?
This is the
Three.
third year.
The third year, so maybe like, 2 to 3 year
I wouldn't-
contract?
I would do a renewable. I wouldn't,
Really?
because my experience with these people is they all say they can do it.
Yeah.
And then when it comes time to it, be careful what you wish for. So I would do an annual with the ability to renew, but I wouldn't personally, I wouldn't agree to locking us into more than a year until we have a track record.
Yeah, that's fine with me as well. I mean, I spoke with actually the bid number 21 in Milwaukee, where they have all the downtown lights and decorations, and we just talked through, in general, it was nice to talk to another bid director about their holiday decoration experience, and they gave a glowing recommendation for another vendor that would be in our area, and they do a very similar large tree and lights, and I think there are options out there, and renewing it each year seems like a good idea to me.
Mike, I think that makes sense, but I wonder if we're putting out the bid to ask the question if there is any financial benefit to a 2+ year commitment. I mean, if it's significant, we should consider it at least, especially if they're glowing, but we all should have an exit clause that if we're
Yeah,
dissatisfied.
as long as we can get out. I mean,
Yeah.
you could do a 1 year with a renew with, hey, if we do this for more than, here's what it is if you do it 1 year.
Right.
And if you do it multiple,
Yep.
after the first year of the test, then it drops dramatically or whatever.
If it doesn't, then don't do it.
Yeah.
We should probably ask the
Right.
question.
Well, I don't have a problem with that, but
We could call it the Santa Claus.
Nice.
If you don't like Santa, you just have to get him to say he doesn't like his job.
Oh, I want to meet the person that says they don't like Santa.
I do too.
They're mean. The Grinch.
Yeah.
Can I ask about the herd of deer?
They
Where
died.
are they?
They died.
Most of them
They all
are
got shot?
no
I mean, all of
longer.
them?
There's some down at Larry's house.
The remaining healthy deer are at Larry's.
I noticed you're
Property.
feeding the herd up by you.
The Call the Herd Committee for the city got a hold of them.
The weather really took a toll on them over the years, and they're in really
Did they go
rough
3
shape.
seasons? Was that about 3 seasons? We expected
They
life to
lasted
be about 3.
4th or 5th, yeah.
I just wonder if we should reconsider a fresh herd, because they look really nice. We could raise them from little ones, and
That could be included in the RFP
I
next year.
think
Fresh herd of deer.
that's right.
I
Because
know a
these
few-
don't
I
eat
know a
your
few
shrubs.
people-
They were really nice deer. They never moved.
I
They
know a
didn't
few
eat anything.
people that wouldn't like that concept, but that's okay. I'm not
Maybe-
opposed to it.
Maybe we need to get with the Deer Management Committee and get real deer. Just have them push them into downtown.
That's okay with me.
There's probably 600,000 hunters that would support that.
Anything else on holiday decorations? If not, we'll move on to item 3, the owner survey update. Jess, do you want to?
Sure. So I did send out the survey results in advance, and they're in the packet as well for the business survey and the property owner survey. And then put together sort of a brief comparison so that you could see them next to each other, minus the comments at the end, because it's just a lot of commentary, so we can kind of walk through that. But in general, I feel like we had a very good sampling of response from both surveys and had a somewhat similar amount. The property owner survey, we had 31 responses, and the business owner survey, we had 38 responses. So I'll pull this up and we can kind of walk through it. There were a lot of similarities in the responses, but they were different in some areas. So for the most part, landscaping, seasonal flowers, both the business owners and property owners seem to agree strongly that they're satisfied. As we look down to the if the bid should continue to invest in holiday, Christmas, and seasonal decor, again, both really positive in that they agree. We should continue to do that. Sort of looking at the overall cleanliness of the downtown streets and sidewalks, there were really similar results between the property owner and business owners. For the most part, I'd say somewhat agree that they're satisfied, with some room for improvement. If the bid board allocates funds for marketing, what should be the primary goals? This question received a little bit mixed response. Property owners were across the board a little more evenly, increase tourism and visitors, recruit new businesses, retain existing businesses. They were all the top three, compared to increasing tourism and visitors at 31% for the business owners, then retaining businesses and recruiting new businesses. So they're the same top three, but a little bit different makeup in terms of their importance level. One question that we asked on the property owner survey, excuse me, that we didn't ask in the business owner survey was about the potential for an additional $1 to be assessed as we move forward with Main Street reconstruction. And we only asked the property owner because they're the ones who are technically paying it. And 20 of the 31 respondents said yes, they would be potentially supportive of that. The next question is about wayfinding and signage downtown, and if the bid should invest in it, in new signage and wayfinding. And 63% of business owners said yes, they agree, and only 45% of property owners said yes. This is interesting. Feel free to stop me along the way if you want to make a comment about anything. Property owners said that 71% said that it's important to them to receive the historic district designation, compared to 66% of business owners. Events that close streets to vehicle traffic tend to impact the business or businesses within the property. So this was actually a pretty similar response. We did adjust the question for the business owners to not include an NA. I mean, really not at all seems probably fine. So you can see that the mix is a little bit different. Roofline lights on Main Street are an important feature to the downtown. For property owners, 71% agreed, and for business owners, 89% agreed. So there's a pretty significant difference there. When the west side of the downtown Riverwalk project is completed, I support additional investment of roofline lights along the river-facing buildings. This one dropped a little bit, but in general still agreed with 58% of property owners and 66% agreeing of the business owners. So this is going to be really hard to read on the screen probably, and probably one that you may want to look at more in your packet. But this this question was the same for both property and business owners. It was more of a rating scale on how essential or not important each of these topics are. They're the same topics that we just asked other questions about, but this time it really rates the level of importance to them. So you can see that streetscape improvements, sidewalks, and street lighting, the business owners responded that it was essential and very important, and it was a little bit more mixed response to the property owners. Signage and wayfinding was very important, somewhat important to business owners, and pretty much the same for property owners. Landscaping and seasonal flowers was sort of a mix across the property owner surveys. It landed more in the very important to essential, and it did as well for business owners. The historic district designation dropped a little bit in level of importance. The property owners rated it a little bit more important than the business owners. Roofline lights on Main Street. The property owners felt that it was important, but the highest response was in the somewhat important category. Business owners felt that roofline lights were more important. Downtown Riverwalk improvements was very important for the business owners and a little bit less important to the property owners. Christmas and seasonal decorations, very important, was the highest for property owners, and in sort of an equal importance level for business owners. Marketing, which is a topic we've discussed throughout the year, had really a mixed result here for both the property owners and business owners. In general, I would say they're essential and very important for both. However, the property owners rated it at 42%, somewhat important. Street and sidewalk cleaning, the business owners rated it essential and very important at nearly 90% of respondents. Property owners were slightly less, but also found that to be a really important category. So something for us to maybe consider as we move forward. Event management was a little bit mixed across the board, ranging from very important to somewhat important in both categories, or for both respondents. Are there any questions? That's a lot of information.
Just not really a question, but would it be possible to get the side-by-side that you did in the presentation mailed out to us?
Yep, I'll send it your way. It's exactly what was in each of the packets, just screenshots of it put together. So you have all of the information, but I'll happily send this over as well. It's just easier to look at it this way.
Side-by-side.
I agree.
Jess, as part of this survey, not just procuring it and now we have results, were they going to give it like an executive summary of findings and next steps, or is that up to us?
That's up to us. Yep. So continuing on, we're almost to the end of the questions besides the commentary that is not included in this part, but we can pull up if you'd like to look at it. This is essentially a very similar, essential, very important, somewhat important, non-important. It just shows it as it's the same questions, but shown more as visual. So you can just take a peek here. It kind of helps you visualize their level of importance for each topic. So essentially, the darker the color, the more important it is to the respondents. Excuse me. And here's the last one. So we already have gone through the property owner comments back, and the business owner survey, we did ask additional and different questions to get a better sense of their perspective of what the downtown bid does, what its purpose is. And we also asked, what is the single most important item or initiative to be addressed by the downtown bid? And we also asked, how can the downtown bid support businesses? There was an additional optional comment box at the end as well, just like the property survey. So I'm happy to put these up if you'd like. Otherwise, I know they've had a chance probably to review them as well.
I was wondering on the businesses that replied, I feel like if they took the time, they want to be active in something, and there were at least 2 or 3 that said that they didn't know what we did. So I don't know. I know that it was optional to put who you were on it, but I'm wondering if they did, is there a way to reach out to them to explain what we do to educate them?
Nobody responded with their information.
They didn't.
No, but we have the email list that it went out to, so perhaps there's a follow-up that goes out. We have the results, and we'd be happy to, invite you to join a committee or something like that. I don't know. We at least have the contact information for everyone who's taken both surveys.
Okay.
I just want to mention something. As far as the percentages and all that stuff is very telling, but I spent a lot of time reading the commentary, even though it's hard to say how many people actually provided comment versus truly responding, but there seemed to be some consistency between owners and business, or building owners and business owners, on at least 2 topics, which was cleanliness downtown, not necessarily landscape, even though that was definitely a high-ranking issue, and I think significant progress has been made there. But cleanliness, as far as not trashy kind of stuff, I just wonder if we can, at some point, prioritize or dive into how we can find a way to improve that. And also the dreaded parking issue, which was very consistently mentioned. I'm looking forward to the next meeting for the improvements that are going to happen there. There seem to be the same kind of complaints, and I know we spent a lot of time, I don't know if this was last year, probably the year before, working on ways to deal with that from a kind of a multi-approach. And I remember having the chief of police here and coming up with an approach of higher fines, things like that. But COVID kind of interrupt enforcement. And I certainly voiced, I'm the last guy to have the police take time writing tickets. But I did notice right after we came up with that, because down by myself, there's consistent violators, and it's easy to know who it is. Even warning them that enforcement is coming changed the habit for about 2 weeks, and then some enforcement came with a couple of warnings, and I think even maybe a ticket, and it instantly changed. And then COVID hit without enforcement, and everybody kind of went back to their habits. So I'm not sure if it makes sense to go back to all that work we did and see if we can have the chief here or somebody to say, hey, is it possible we could have an occasional sweep and make it hurt again like we talked about? We moved to $50, I think, and it'd be nice if we could do that, because there's clearly a message from business owners that they definitely see too much employee parking. So that's not a fun subject, but we did spend a lot of time addressing it, and I wonder if we could go back to that. In addition, I remember when we walked the downtown for the upcoming improvements downtown, and we talked about the bump outs and all those things, which we're going to have more conversation about. From my head that day as we walked around, our wish list of the bump outs and reshaping them or straightening the street, I remember at least coming up with 35 more spaces. So at some point, if we get somewhere with that, it'd be nice to inform the public that, hey, this is coming. There was also a comment about how to help the businesses not suffer from that improvement coming, because we all saw how 7th Avenue changed the traffic and everything else. But downtown's going to have a greater impact on businesses, and there's a lot of concern, especially with the current economy, and people won't make that effort if we have a really torn up downtown for a year or so. So I think that's something it'd be nice to address too, but that might come from the next committee.
If I could jump in, I think you really hit it on the head, Tony, that behavior was beginning to be changed, and it was noticeable downtown. Like, you could drive through midday and see a
parking
bunch of available parking for our customers, which was really cool to see. And from a behavior change standpoint, it was neat to see that it worked. You know, a little bit of enforcement and reminders, and business employees were starting to change behaviors. I agree with you about COVID. I think a few more things to add is then we tore up the Riverwalk and blew up some parking in behind store owners' properties, and 7th took out a bunch of parking too. So we have had conversations with the police department about beginning that again, and every time we've had the conversation, well, now we just blew up the Riverwalk, and 7th has been out of commission for 6 months, and so I think we're poised for that to be recreated. And timing wise, I think it's personally perfect to do so in advance of what you just shared, that assuming we keep Main Street on track for reconstruction in 2023, it's going to be really important to change behavior prior to that happening in 2023, or 23 is going to happen, and the parking on Main Street is going to be gone essentially for an entire 6-month period of time. And I know that this is something that we hear about, and we've talked about over the years that I've been here. The survey, the comment about the comments in the survey is true. There were a handful of them, and it's probably the single most important thing that Jess and I hear too. And it's not just the idle hour that complains about it, right? There are several businesses that complain about losing their parking, and something that we should take seriously as the bid board and the city of West Bend.
I wonder if we could even have kind of a polite phase back in of, first of all, reminding everyone of the ordinance and the pain of it, and then maybe like they did the first time, kind of a warning was given and then a citation. Give people the opportunity to change their behavior, and those who fail to should pay. It's that simple, and they'll stop really quickly. $50 is a pretty good hit. So,
Well, I agree there's some behavioral issues. COVID did impact things from a different perspective. Events slowed or came to a halt. And once COVID subsided, those events ramped up like everywhere. I mean, we're revenge eventing. And what's happening now is we're testing the parking infrastructure with the events plus the business activity. And I think it's exposing issues. I know several businesses who are considering events, but outside the downtown area because of the parking and the availability of space. And so my concern is long-term, that could be a new behavior. If businesses are looking to hold events outside of downtown, do they decide to get out of downtown? So I think we have an infrastructure issue, not a parking issue, to hold the capacity of all the activity going on downtown. And how much more activity is going to come with the new apartment project and the finalization of the Riverwalk on the other side. I think it's an infrastructure issue, something bigger than just parking.
Is it possible to structure the changes downtown in such a way that they could be performed on a fast-track basis? In other words, it wouldn't be, this contractor's got 3 weeks to do a week's worth of work, and the next contractor comes in after. Can we get creative with the engineering and have it maybe impact a month or a month and a half rather than 6 months or 8 months?
So the transportation subcommittee will get a chance to chat with our engineers directly coming up in a month or so. And then the full bid board will have an opportunity as well. The staff has had those conversations. Max and Mitch, our contracted engineer, have been meeting with Doug, Jess, and myself. And we've talked about things like that. I think maybe a month and a half is unrealistic unless we really want to pay like crazy for it. But a condensed period is what I'm hearing you say, Mark, and there might be some direction towards that. You know, a typical construction project in Wisconsin and West Bend is 6 months, and if it's unable to be phased, if it's unable to keep a lane of traffic open, all those things are going to be talked about in the next few months as we begin the formal design for the 2023 construction year, and you guys will have a chance to be a part of that and to control
The other
that.
thought was, the other thing you could think about is when this was done in 82, 83, it was done Hickory south and Hickory north. So one year they did Hickory and they kept the whole north side available for parking and everything. And then the next year they came and did the other half. So it didn't totally shut down Main Street. I was kind of young back then, Herbs. You may remember more of this, but it definitely was done in phases. So I think it definitely has to be looked at, and creativity has to be the theme. And I think that the wayfinding and everything that the city can do, the bid can do, needs to be done during that process. And if we're creative, it can become very positive.
Talked with our engineer about a temporary sidewalk that they like literally lay out in some construction projects, and it might not be vehicular traffic, but at least pedestrian traffic can get to the businesses and the fronts of business. And so I agree, Mike, there are lots of creative opportunities. Some of those come with cost, and we'll just have to know that going into the project that we might have to pay a little more for this Main Street reconstruction than we would for a normal 7th Avenue or 18th, or where traffic and access to our businesses is not that important or not as important. Agreed. It'll be a fun couple of years for sure. And a little scary for some, I get it, but.
And I think the other key to it is I know when they did the bridge on 33, the construction company did a weekly meeting where businesses could come and they had a meeting with them weekly that said, here's what's going on, this is what the plan is for this week, so everybody knew where things were headed and what was going on. And I think that's going to be a really critical point as well, is to make sure that the lines of communication are going to be huge and no surprises. And I think people will get through it just fine.
It's just kind of hit me, and I'm not sure if it's rational or possible, but I remember when the clinic here in town rebuilt, there was a temporary parking and a shuttle service. And I'm just wondering if that could be a possibility for employees or anything, just to promote that there's still a way to get to downtown and just have some shuttles rotating. I'm not sure if that's practical or not.
I think anything's possible. It's just a matter of at what cost and how do you make it work.
I'm a volunteer rickshaw driver at Samaritan. I could pedal people.
Awesome.
You're gonna need a mountain bike though.
Next meeting, bring your hat. I want to see the hat that you wear. If I can be redundant and go back to the parking issue, though, I wonder if we could commit to something. It was nice to talk about it briefly, but to commit to something.
I think we can commit to it. I think the thing that we need to address also is knowing that we're getting a new police chief. And so, depending upon who that is and what happens, that may play into this as well. And so I think we ought to wait until that happens and then...
And throw that at them first thing?
Yeah.
Joy.
Well, seeing the two potential candidates, I think both of them are aware of what's going on. So, but I think it only makes sense to wait with that conversation until that happens.
It wouldn't be inappropriate to maybe address it before we get a new chief in January, only because if it's something that's going to leave it's not the right thing to do your first day is to go out and write a bunch of tickets as a new chief of police. So there may be some timing issues there. It might make actual sense to do it sooner rather than later. And that would be something we should probably talk to Chief Moyler about.
I just don't think there's going to be a lot of tickets. I think for a very short period of time, we saw behavioral change. And I just think we could try it again.
So I would the conversation's all good, and I agree that we need a timeline for it. It drives me as crazy as anybody seeing it parked up downtown when our customers don't have a convenient shot to hit the businesses close by. I do agree with Mike on this one. We have had communications with Chief Moyler.
Okay.
The incoming candidates absolutely know about this. January 7th isn't that far away. Right. Chief has been here a long time and served us well. He's also only going to be around exactly 30 days from now. So I do think that hitting the ground running isn't going to put a new chief in an awkward spot, because they all know the topic. The two candidates are both local to West Bend and are well aware, and we will be in conversation with him as one of them are selected.
Well, that's clearly soon enough at just having a plan, that's all.
Plus, implementing it around the holidays is always
not
tough. Yeah,
I hear you.
Another tough one to do. Thanks for the conversation. It's good stuff. Exciting to hear.
Anything else on the survey? If not,
Well, you are going to release this to the people who want it, or are you just going to put it up on the website, or?
So I'll put together, I usually send out a bid recap email, and I'll make sure that everyone who is included on the survey is able to get that email from today, and it'll have a link in there to their survey results and everything. Is that what you're asking?
Well, that, and what are we going to do with it? I mean, we've gotten some good information, I think, here as to how we should be moving forward with what we do. I think we've gotten some good input.
Definitely.
And I think we should try to abide by that as well.
I totally agree. I mean, that was the purpose of it,
Right.
not to just shelve it.
Right, so
Yep.
are we going to form a committee for that, or are we just going to do it as a board to figure out what to do with it? I don't want to just sit on it.
Well, what would you propose the committee to do?
I guess take the results and come back to the full board with like the top 3 for the next year, and then like a 1-year, 3-year, 5-year plan kind of thing. I don't know if it's even working with the transportation committee to figure out how to best serve the businesses. And I mean, it can be down the road, but I think if we just had like a 1-year, 3-year, 5-year based on these results, that would at least give us some sort of guidelines.
So I think Tony hit 2 of them, which was the parking and the cleaning.
And that's fine. If that's what we agree
Yeah.
we want to do, then that's what we should. But then how are we going to do that? And who's going to do that?
Well, I think the parking we can address with the incoming chief,
Okay?
definitely. And then the cleaning, I don't know what the answer to that is. I go back to one of the very first meetings I was a part of with Herb talking about why is the city getting rid of the budget for maintaining downtown, which at that time was $40-some thousand. And it was like, okay, well, we don't have money, so we're going to pull this 40-some thousand and stop maintaining downtown. We brought some of that back with the bid paying Scott's, and then doing that annual cleanup. But the weekly or the bi-weekly cleaning that the city was doing is gone. So is that something we go back to the city for and saying, hey, we need this, or is the bid gonna, and I guess that would be the conversation of this group, is to figure out how we want to do that. And I guess the bigger question is, when they say it's not clean, what are they commenting on? Are they
That's the
commenting
key.
on in front of specific stores or restaurants or whatever, there's a mess, and then do we address that with the property
one.
owners? Or is it because we did address the cigarette butt issue. But I also noticed that in a lot of areas, it's just getting swept into the gutter line. So is that really addressing the issue, or is that just kind of putting a Band-Aid on it to make it look good right on the sidewalk in front of that business? So my personal opinion is we all need to kind of do our thing, and maybe it's an educational thing to get businesses to do it, but maybe at the same time I know Doug said, hey, we don't have the street cleaner all the time, but maybe we get some commitment that once a month the street cleaner is going to come through and do that, and in the in-between the businesses do it.
I mean, there's a lot. I just, as a board, I just don't want to sit back and not do stuff. I want to actually come up with a plan and implement it. I mean, I personally, my business has experienced negative things with what's going on with waste management. I mean, it's 2 to 3 to 4 weeks sometimes before I'm getting my garbage and recyclables picked up. I know that they are having a staffing issue, but I feel it makes the downtown look really crappy when I've got an overstuffed recyclable bin waiting to be picked up for weeks at a time. So
I totally agree, because if you go behind my building, there's
yeah.
piles of it, and it's not just waste management, because I don't use waste management.
Yeah, I mean that I compared the Green for Life or whatever, but they were twice as much, and I can't afford that, But there's an issue. So I'm saying if all of us are using the same service, and maybe there's something more that we can do there on that. That's one thing. But my neighbors, their top with the wind is blown off. I've seen it in the middle of the street, and it looks dingy,
And I think it's part of a wider lens view again. This is about activity and overflowing garbage cans. Because of the event ramp up and the activity and the capacity downtown is trying to take on. And so if garbage collection is kind of a Band-Aid now, when there's an uptick in activity and trash because of activities, you're gonna have what you have. If you just walk downtown, you can see on any other given day, overflowed garbage cans and then spilling around it and all that. I'm picking up stuff constantly, but I don't know where to go with it. I put it in my own truck and take it home.
Did I hear you just volunteer?
I just say something on cleanliness of the downtown, down by, from Hickory Street. When you get a wind like you just had now, and that happens during the fall, it seems like we get all the debris from up on 7th Avenue on down, comes down and circles around and hits the Hickory Street building and Main, the Chinese restaurant that's there now. Comes down by us. We can walk in leaves knee deep almost. And I called the city, asked them if they'd come down and get it, and they said they don't do anything. And I thought maybe Scott's was cleaning it up, but I guess nobody was cleaning it up, and we cleaned it up. When the ladies clean the triangle up, they have all this debris. It's too much to put in the garbage cans that are there. We take our trucks. I took 2 truckloads of leaves out to the city garbage, and I don't know, if I wouldn't be there, I guess, I don't know where people will walk right now. If you walk down there on Main Street right now today, this morning, just go down there, and you're gonna see all paper, shopping bags, dinner plates, all kinds of stuff, unless somebody picks it up. I pick it up, put it in the garbage sometimes, but I'm getting too old to do that. Somebody should, the leaves are really a problem. Where do you go with the leaves? Unless somebody hauls them away. Well, we haul them away. But somebody, just Scott's or whoever's maintaining downtown should really be, the lady from the Chinese restaurant is out there with her leaves. She rakes them down and down towards us. The wind blows them down towards us. Where do we go with them? And
Well, I think that goes
gets to be
that-
quite a bit.
That goes back to my original comment of we lost some of that cleanup from the city.
Last year.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that last year we did explore some estimates like midway through the year with Scott's to come through and do some additional like leaf blowing and gutter clean out. And we had looked at them maybe in June or July and decided not to because we hadn't really budgeted for it at that time. But that's something that we could look into for next year, for this next year, as we explore our budget and priorities based on the survey.
Yeah, and I definitely think we can do that, but I also believe that it should be a partnership. Real honestly. I mean, one of the comments in the survey, people said it would be nice if a building owner or business could have access to the city to get rid of stuff. Like myself, I'm not a resident of the city. I can't take anything out there. I have someone who is in my business that is, so they can, but, that should probably be considered that if a building owner needs to get rid of something, they have an ability to take it out to the city landfill or wherever it is and get rid of it. I think those are all areas. I think we can, I don't know if we need to do this as a committee, Peggy. I think we can have the conversation like we're having right now and
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. I just want to make sure that we do something.
yeah, no, and I think it definitely needs to be part of the budgeting of where we head and when we talk about Scott's and all that. And I think it also needs to be addressed with the transportation group with the downtown of, where are the dumpsters going to go and where are we going to have this stuff? And we can't just assume it's going to solve its problem. And I think Ken's spot on that there's a lot going on down there.
There is, and I would just wonder if there's a way, it's probably maybe too late in this season, but to have like one porta potty put downtown. There are so many people walking around downtown right now. On a weekly basis, I get a number of families that just, can I please use your restroom? Because there isn't really anything downtown. It's there on Saturday mornings during farmers market and stuff, but maybe we could have one. I know that, it's not always the best, but there really isn't a public bathroom at all downtown for families or people.
I'm done after this one. So I saw there was some feedback about public restrooms. This is another infrastructure type situation. In the multi-tenant building I'm in, we're having a lot of problems with people just walking in from the street, using the restroom, taking toilet paper, all that kind of stuff. But this capacity issue, again, for restrooms is a significant issue as well on the infrastructure front. Now I'm done, that's 3 times.
I know that there's been some conversation on that, and I did receive a phone call in regards to that from somebody, so I think that's something we can talk about at the transportation meeting and see where that's going. But it definitely needs to happen. Do we do a porta potty? I guess we can, but then, you know, you look back a couple months ago and people were really upset that there was a porta potty parked on Main Street and how terrible it looked. So I think if you do it, you got to find some place to do it, and then you have to make sure it gets maintained. And it has to be a handicap accessible one.
Question for Jay. The little park that runs from Maine down to where the new Riverwalk West is going to be, is there room in there to put some type of public facilities?
So the Riverwalk Revitalization Committee has struggled with this for years. The only real public restroom that we have is in the depot, and it's not open year-round, so it's closed this time of the year. It is a source of frustration, no doubt, not just for events, but for normal day-to-day activity. We have not found a decent location for a public restroom. There have been a couple of proposals that have been discussed. Some of you folks serve on the Riverwalk Revitalization Committee, so you know this well, but nothing that's bubbled up to even close to being a logical solution. It's something they'll continue to struggle with, I'm sure, the Riverwalk, as we plan to construct the Riverwalk beginning in 2022. We're actually looking to bid it in January of this year without a public restroom as part of the design. A properly hidden but yet visible and accessible location for a porta potty might be an interim solution. I mean, I think that's possible in Pocket Park, but an actual public restroom, not likely, no. They're crazy expensive, and there hasn't been the perfect spot that's like presented itself for an opportunity for a public restroom. But I think it is something that we'll continue to struggle with.
If we don't break on
What is a perfect spot is the question. I mean, I guess I look and say, why can't it be in the Pocket Park?
makes sense.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think it's more of we need it, but do we really want it? And is that why we're not coming up with a perfect spot? Because I've heard the argument on the other side of the maintenance and what do we do with it in the winter and all of that. And those have become the reasons why we shouldn't have it, as opposed to let's figure out how to make this happen. It's obviously a problem, and it's obviously needed. And other communities do it. So, is there a perfect spot? I don't think so. But is there some place that it can be? Can we find some place to put it downtown? Absolutely. But I think sometimes there's we can't because we don't want to versus we haven't, and so we come up with reasons why it's not viable. And let's face it, putting money into a bathroom isn't real cool, but it's a necessity and it's needed. And so I think it would be important. To me, it's just as important as finding the right place to put our trash receptacles. It's all, like Ken said, it's all part of the infrastructure. It's all part of what we need to be looking at. So,
just a comment, if I could. We've talked about trash, parking, restrooms, all these different issues, and you had a great idea as far as a subcommittee. And if that's not practical, and we want to tackle these things, maybe we keep the Pocal survey on our agenda for a while, and maybe at each meeting we just determine next meeting one subject and drill down on that and come up with some solutions, because we're just kind of just talking. And we should use this process to make change. And the only way to do that is if we all focus, and if we vote on it each meeting for the next meeting, we can all have a month to think about it and come back with input and actually make some decisions. So I'd love to keep this on the agenda on a regular basis.
Rather than creating a committee that just
You bet.
stalls everything.
I think all our opinions are valuable versus always going down to a committee, and we're all here anyway, and it might add 15 minutes, to our commitment each month. So just my thought.
So the parking, with the thought of the new chief, the parking probably wouldn't be a good one to put on his first day.
No.
So,
Or Chief Mueller's last.
yeah.
His legacy.
So,
So maybe we go to trash.
so let's talk about cleanliness and stuff downtown for the next meeting.
Right. And that
All right.
gives us an opportunity to maybe go around and
Yep.
see where the hot spots and problems are.
Okay, so if there's nothing else on the survey, let's move to the Saad Grant Committee. We had a couple people who volunteered who want to be a part of it.
Yep.
I don't know if we have any outsiders.
So we do, and this is sort of along with an announcement. Unfortunately, Tony Cable was unable to attend this morning, but he wanted to let everyone know that he's really enjoyed serving on the board and was really thankful for his time and the collaboration he's had with you guys. He has asked to, or he has chosen to resign from the board moving forward in 2022. However, I believe he's still possibly interested in continuing on the Facade Grant Committee, so he would maybe serve as our business owner. Peggy also was willing, as well as Mark Allen. And then from city staff, Jim Ranke and myself were planning to. So we would have 5 members on the committee to start in 2022, look at the manual, make some adjustments, and then work through an application process similar as in the past.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Everybody agree?
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to formally vote on a committee, do we?
Are committees appointed by the president, or?
I'm not sure.
So if you're going to have it as a formal ad hoc committee that is an appointment of this body and would be subject to the public notices,
Should
then
have a president.
yes. If
Okay.
it's just a group that's going to meet once and never again, then no, I think it's a reoccurring.
So motion will,
Yep.
We need a motion.
the people that were mentioned to serve on that committee.
Need a
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, so we have one agenda item, which is cleaning up downtown. We won't have we have the elections. We will not have the Transportation Committee meeting prior to that meeting, so that'll
We'll
have to go
have
to February.
Steiner Electric will be at our meeting in January, right? It's the organizational meeting as well. We'll have this topic we were just talking about. And please feel free to reach out if you have other topics of interest to cover. Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain an adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Even though you don't need one.
I know I don't need one. I'm just being polite. Thank you,
Second.
everybody. Have a Merry Christmas.